Welcome to the Wall Street Crossover Show. The date's May the 22nd, brought to you by Tip TV in conjunction with sponsors Admiral Markets. Gives me great pleasure, as always, to introduce Mr. Darren Sinden, the market commentator of Admiral Markets. Darren, how was the devil are you, sir?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Nick.
OK, we've got a number of slides to go through ahead of the bank holiday weekend. Let's kick off with the first one. Data released over the European session. What's caught your eye this morning?
Quite a bit of news out this morning, Nick, but I picked out 3 or 4 points for us to have a look at. First of all, German GDP for Q1, looking at the year-on-year number here. So it's actually up by 1.1% versus a 1% growth forecast and a 1.1% prior read. So in line, really. Growth, but not excessive growth. Slightly conflicting with some of the other data that we've seen from Germany in the last week or so. So just, again, leaving us with a slight puzzle as to what's actually going on in the Eurozone. And indeed, if we look down at the next item, French business confidence, and here I've looked at the manufacturing number, a read of 103. That's the best read, the highest read, if you will, since August 2011. So yet another piece of data that suggests that the French economy is actually turning around, whilst the German economy may be running out of steam, and to sort of to bear that out, a slight dip as far as German business confidence was concerned. This one from the IFO survey, and it fell back to 108.5, the reading for May, versus 108.6 in April. So a very modest tip back, but as I say, perhaps the German economy is running out of steam, and but perhaps equally the other European economies like France will take up the gauntlet. Further afield and a bit earlier in the day, we had the monetary policy meeting at the Bank of Japan. No change in interest rates, no change in QE. They voted 8-1 in favour of no change. The one dissenter wanted to reduce the amount of monthly QE from $60 billion to $45 billion, but that's been left on hold. Moderate recovery was their view. They raised their views on consumer spending and investment in housing, but strangely the currency was pretty much left unchanged from that. So the market's obviously waiting for clearer signs that that QE is working. As you know, I'm sceptical that it is, but we should wait and see.
OK, so let's take a look at the FTSE 100 movers.
OK, well, we're back to what's becoming an old friend of the show now, Vodafone, up 4% this morning, and simply because comments made by John Malone, who's the billionaire backer of Liberty Global, were interpreted to signal his interest in the mobile group. I think he said something about how can you get a banana out of a candy jar intact. How that relates to Vodafone, I'll leave it for others to decide. But there's also been a series of positive broker notes out today from the likes of Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs, and as I say, the stock up 4% again. Moving to another kind of utility, Severn Trent, one of our water companies, they're down 1.5%. Their pre-tax profits fell by pretty much half from what they were in 2014. That would have been fairly well signalled. It's obviously a regulated business where the income is well known to the market. Nonetheless, there's been some other rumours attached to the stock today suggesting that maybe the dividend will be cut going forward, etc., etc. Right. So as I say, down 1.5%.
Understood. OK, so let's talk about M&A and the rumours and movers. OK,
well, we're back to the cable TV and telecom space. You might remember we talked about the French company Altis earlier in the week, and their decision to buy a company called Suddenlink. Well, the backer, another billionaire backer of Altis, a chap called Patrick Drahi, was in New York this week, and he met with the Time Warner boss, Rob Marcus, in New York. That was according to the Wall Street Journal, and the meeting was apparently to discuss a cash and stock takeover of Time Warner. As I say, the French group recently bought Suddenlink, a top 10 US cable TV provider. Now, to add some spice to the mix, we've talked about this before, Charter, which is ticker CHTR in the US, is also said to be considering another offer for Time Warner. They bid $132.50 back in 2014. Comcast had recently withdrawn an offer for Time Warner. They were paying $158.20. So it's anyone's guess what the price will be. Interestingly, though, having had a bit of a run-up in the ordinary market, Time Warner sold off after hours from around 165.5 to 157.33, suggesting perhaps that the market doesn't see a bidding war yet. But actually, as I left the office, I read another article on it where they're talking a price of above 170 for a deal. So it's certainly a space to keep an eye on. It's almost it's hard to keep up with the number of
Working out what's
yeah,
the end game, as
absolutely,
they say.
yeah, but certainly a space that's going to provide plenty of interest going forward.
Okay. So let's take a look at the US data points in terms of today. What's
relative? Well, it's a relative.
We say relative.
Yeah, but
okay.
It is really. There's two things to look at. CPI for April, so the measure of inflation in the US. We're looking for a slight gain, 0.1% versus the prior read of 0.2%. But the truth is that's in the US, as with other leading economies, inflation is very much on the downward leg.
Right.
So don't be surprised if it perhaps even comes in flat there. And then probably the main feature of the day is a speech by Janet Yellen. She's speaking in Rhode Island on the economic outlook. She's not due to speak till 1 o'clock Eastern time or 6 o'clock our time, but as ever when she speaks, people will hang on her every word. Yeah,
understood.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's take a look at US pre-market movers and some chart levels.
Okay, well, I picked out a couple of technology stocks here in terms of the US early movers. Marvel Technology, ticker MRVLUS, down 2.8%. Weaker Q2 guidance from those. Disappointing the market, really. Perhaps surprising they haven't been hit a bit harder. It could be worse, though. They could have been Axiom Corporation. Now, these are people who offer software as a service,
right?
And they're down 9.5%. They missed revenues, and they missed by 4%, and the stock was already down 5% in the main session. So we're talking really over between the two sessions of a fall of around 14.5%. So watch how they perform on the opening just over an hour's time. In terms of levels to watch today, we've just tweaked out some of these slightly. So FTSE now, the downside level 7,000, the upside level 7,050. Must just point out that as I left the office, the high of the day in the FTSE was 7,049.9 in the cash, so very close to that area. The DAX, we tightened the range here slightly, 11,706 on the downside, 11,885 the upside level to watch. S&P, again, we've narrowed the range here, 2120 I think we can look at now on the downside, and 2135, obviously looking for new highs above that. In the Dow, 18,208 remains our downside level, and we look for moves above 18,352 for further gains. In the currencies, euro dollar 111.31 is the downside today, 112.18 our upside level. Aussie dollar, we tightened it slightly, but it still remains below that key 80 level, 78.60 on the downside and 79.33 our upside level. As I said, dollar yen relatively unfazed by the Bank of Japan, 120.63 remains our downside level, 121.40 we're looking for on the upside. A bit more strength in cables, so we've been able to move up the levels and tighten the range here. 156.27 our downside level in cable, and 157.05 the upside.
Brilliant. Okay, Darren Sinden, market commentator, Admiral Markets, thank you for that. We'll be back on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, so no show Monday or Tuesday, back at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Have a great bank holiday weekend. Thank you.